Hello everyone. Thanks for inviting me to ACC. My name is Jeong. It is nice to meet you online in a time of trouble with COVID-19. Please listen to my presentation. As the type of frequency of disaster become more difficult to predict, the attitude that disaster experts and the general public must prepare for disasters has also changed. And the nation experts, citizens must all have the ability to respond to disasters. After the disaster of Seowol Ferry, the people of the whole country are increasingly interested in the disaster. It is therefore crucial to reach the public with guidance on appropriate disaster planning and preparedness. Information on disaster and information to be prepared for disasters are rapidly absorbed through network such as web, mobile, while disaster supply kit provided in the event of disaster are close to the same items. It is the time when it is questionable whether different types of disaster supply kit should be paid depending on the type of disaster and the characteristics of the victims. This study analyzed the items and systems of disaster supply kit in the United States and Japan, surveys and analyzed the opinion of Korean disaster-related public officials on the disaster supply kit, and then proposes a plan to improve disaster supply kit in Korea. Article of Disaster Relief Act stipulates that relief should be given to victims of disaster and temporary evacuees who are expected to be disaster victims, thereby protecting the victims and temporary evacuees and promoting life stability. The types of relief are classified into provision of temporary housing facilities, provision of daily necessities such as meals, food, clothing, and bedding, provision of medical service, infectious disease prevention and quarantine activities, and business support from a minimum of 7 days to a maximum of 6 months, depending on the size of damage. Applications are made within months. The most basic provision of disaster relief activities is disaster supply kit. It can be paid to victims of disaster even before the situation of disaster is identified, and the subject of the payment are mainly local governments and NGOs such as the Korean Red Cross, Community Chest of Korea. Although slightly different for each paying entity, the items mainly paid are sets containing blankets and toiletries, which are for men and women, and it is a cooking set for common use. Disaster kits are stocked mainly on items that are not easy to purchase by region. It is principle to store relief supplies to prepare for disaster according to the characteristic of region. In Japan, this is homepage of Tokyo City. The page for disaster preparedness Tokyo. In Japan, assuming a 70% probability of a large earthquake occurring, if the M7.3 scale occurs in the northern part of Tokyo Bay, it is expected that 10,000 deaths, approximately 150,000 injuries, and 5.17 million people having difficulties returning home will occur. 300,000 buildings are expected to shake or fire. Potential for storm and food damage and volcanoes. They provide relief supplies. Mutual agreements have been made with nearby local governments focusing on the supply of food, drink water, and daily necessities and medical centers. They provide such a light-based disaster preparedness Tokyo. They suggest every Tokyo citizen have like this survival tip and a disaster supply kit list. They they can be checked every time. In the United States, it is recommended to have emergency supplies at all times. Disaster relief items, general items, and additional items, and survivor kits for home, for vehicles, and for offices have been categorized and organized, and it is recommended to have individual items and that can also be purchased from government and private organizations. The government proposes is to prepare items by sorting them into basic emergency kits, additional items for emergency supplies, and first aid kits. It is ready campaign. It's composed in multiple languages. In Korea, I sort of I and my colleagues know, depending on the stage, the items corresponding to stage 1, 2, 3 were listed, and the disaster-related officials were asked whether each item should be a national support item or an item to be purchased by individuals. Uh, can see, as you can see, this is a stage 1. Blue one is individual item, which disaster-related public official think. A red one is national support item, they think. It is stage 2 and stage 3. This study proposes to following discussion. There is a need to change the current nation-centered aid system to a public-private system. Japan and the United States are operating systems that are prepared by individuals in advance. Rather than providing relief supplies led by the nation. Therefore, it may be quite awkward to purchase relief items at private expenses in Korea. But it is taken for granted in countries that have established a public-private system. In the disaster situation, not only individuals but also the nation suffer great confusion, especially in the case of disabled and other household. The nation cannot take full care of them. Therefore, there is a strong need to prepare and introduce similar policy programs in Korea. Lies the U.S. Ready campaign. Thanks for attention. Thank you very much.